Right. I first went to Russia in 1979. That's almost 10 years ago. I went for Pesach in 1979, and I went to visit communities in, this is really difficult, in Soviet Central Asia. I figured that there was no way, I figured that if I applied to go to the Soviet Union, and I was the national director of the Committee for Soviet Jewry of the Canadian Jewish Congress, that they weren't going to let me into Russia. So I figured if they're not going to let me in, I might as well apply to go to places that people don't normally go to. Figuring they're not going to let me go to Moscow and Leningrad, that would be no big deal. But if they're not going to let me go, I might as well not be allowed to go somewhere good. So I applied to go to visit some of the provincial capitals in Central Asia. I went to Kazakhstan. I applied to go to Kazakhstan. I applied to go to Kyrgyzia. I applied to go to Uzbekistan. Anybody ever heard of these places?
It's near Afghanistan.
It's near Afghanistan. Very good. Anybody know what the capital of Kyrgyzia is? No, it's a very important Soviet republic. When you get home, look on the map. It's a place called Frunze. It used to be called Pish-Pish, but they changed the name. Pish-Pish. Pish-Pish. But after the revolution, it was renamed after a very famous general named Mikhail something-something-ovich Frunze. And Frunze is a little town that has 7,000 Jews. And its neighboring community is Kazakhstan. Anybody ever heard of Kazakhstan? Really have you guys on the edge of your chair, right? Kazakhstan. I'm going to spill this. Capital of Kazakhstan is a place called Alma-Ata. Alma-Ata is a really nice little community in the middle of nowhere in Kazakhstan, about 50 miles from China, and it has 10,000 Jews. And then I went to Tashkent. Have you heard of Tashkent? Tashkent's the fourth largest city in the Soviet Union. Moscow, Leningrad, Kiev, Tashkent. Not quite as famous, but it's almost as big. Tashkent has 50,000 Jews. Big city.
Are we going to get run over?
No.
No. Somebody might be wanting to get into a driveway. Move away. Move away. People live here.
I wouldn't have figured that out if you hadn't told me. Some are. Some are. So I wanted to go to Alma-Ata. Tashkent, right? I went to Frunze, I went to Alma-Ata, I went to Tashkent, and I went to Bukhara. Bukhara is different kind of food. And I thought that in Soviet Central Asia I would find Sephardic Jews. I thought I would find Bukharian-type Jews. After all, this is Central Asia. And much to my surprise, I didn't. I found Ashkenazi Jews. I found Yiddish-speaking Ashkenazi Jews throughout Soviet Central Asia. What were they doing there? Well, they were living there. How did they get there? Well, you remember from your history lessons that for a short period of time, between 1939 and 1941, during the period of, actually 38 to 41, during the time that Hitler and Stalin had signed the non-aggression pact, remember that one? And Stalin occupied a little piece of Poland, and then immediately after the war, Jews were being deported to the east. Stalin deported Jews to the east. Remember that? Well, he really didn't deport them to the east. He deported them to the southeast. We really want to be more exact. Right? And they went to Tashkent. Tashkent was a big center for Jewish deportees. That's how Eastern European Jews got there. And from Tashkent, they went to all these little places. So when I would meet Jews and I would say, well, why did you come here? They all said the same answer. This is where they brought me. This is where they put me. Hence, I stayed. And we arrive in Moscow. I'll tell you the story of my trip. It's now 5 to 11. I have a lot of time. Right? A lot of time. So, right. So my trip was. What did they serve? It says we ordered. Well, good question. Because we didn't want to order kosher food. We were flying Aeroflot. Aeroflot direct from Montreal to Moscow. Aeroflot is possibly the world's worst airline. It's really disgusting. It's probably what flying in 1930 in a decent airline was. You get in, sit in a gray seat. Right, the walls are gray. The stewardesses are not to be seen. So we go as vegetarians. That's the way to go to Moscow. You know, this way they won't know we're Jews, right? So we order these vegetarian meals, and they put a tray in front of you, and on it is this piece of green gunge that looks like it's been sitting in your refrigerator and you forgot about it, you know, like since last Pesach and now it's next Pesach, and you take it out of the back. Needless to say, we didn't eat their vegetarian. We didn't know what it was. It was like, what, a glass of some kind of bubbly stuff that tasted like rancid ginger ale. That was, pardon? Okay, well, that's what it was. Only compliments of Arab thought. We land in Moscow. Right? The big airport in Moscow, we get off the airplane, and a woman comes up to me and says, Mr. Penn, when you have your luggage, you'll come through and you'll meet us on the other side, we'll take you to the hotel. Which I thought was a bit strange because I never saw this woman before in my life. She didn't say to me, are you Mr. Penn? Do you know Mr. She just walked up to me and went, Mr. Penn, get your luggage, go this way. Obviously, she knew who I was. We got our luggage, and we had been told, and there are different ways to go through customs in Russia. We had been told that I was traveling with a friend, and we were told to go through different lines. This way they won't know we're together, right? So we head off into different lines. Now, we're carrying big suitcases. We have all kinds of technical shoes we're going to see, plus it's Pesach. So I have a suitcase filled with food, because we have to have enough food, and we're not going to eat anything but what we brought along. And we were very concerned that they might take away some of our food. We made sure that everything that we were bringing in was American-made. We didn't have any Israeli products, because we thought they might take away Israeli food. So I put my big suitcase on the customs thing. The guys open it up, he looks through, and he starts moving the food over. Right? Food is of no concern to him whatsoever. We later realized that Russians, when they travel, they all go with Tekla for food. So that was very normal for him to open up a suitcase and find food. Second time I went into Russia, and I'll jump around a bit because it's that kind of evening, I took 2 big vacuum-packed Montreal smoked meats. I had 36 pounds of smoked meat. But that's another story for a little later. In fact, I got another story for a little bit later. So, the guy looks in my suitcase. He moves the food over. He finds my siddur. He opens it up. He says, "What's this?" I go, "It's siddur." And he says, "What?" And I go, "Prayer book." And he goes, "This is for your use." I go, "Yes." Puts it down. Then finds my talus bag. Now, without realizing, I have a regular Shabbos talus that I use, and I have a Yantif talus that I use. My Yantif talus has a silver atara. It happens to be real silver, and it's an antique, and it's a really lovely thing that my grandfather gave to me. However, and I had taken that with me without really thinking of what it is. And when you go into Russia, you have to fill out a customs declaration, and on your customs declaration, you have to list all of your currency and your precious metals. I didn't put down the fact that I had this silver on my customs declaration. So he takes out the talus and he says, "What's this?" I go, "That's a neutral." And he goes, "Okay." And he goes, "Is this silver?" And I go, "No, it's tin." I said, "It's not a precious metal." He says, "Okay," and he puts it back. And that's the extent to which I have any customs search. In the meantime, I look like I was a little, not quite as heavy as I am today, but I look much heavier. I got books in my inside pocket and my back. On my pocket, I'm walking around like this. I'm filled with books, right? And I'm walking through customs. But I'm playing the game, he's playing the game, I go through. My partner was in another line. I go through, I'm waiting, and they are looking through her luggage. And I see there's like a kerfuffle, and there's customs agents, and they're taking away all her stuff. Right? Finally, I'm through, she's waiting another hour, I'm standing there, and this in-tourist woman comes up to me. And she says, "Mr. Penn, what are you waiting for?" And I said, "I'm waiting for my friend." And she looks over there and she sees this person with the books, the KGB and the customs. And this in-tourist woman says to me, "Oh, Mr. Penn, had you been in line together, you would not have had any problems." Obviously, they were waiting. They knew they were going to let me in. They didn't know she was with me. Problems. She had all the books that she was carrying taken away, which later became a real problem, because when we got to Central Asia, instead of having twice as many books as we should have had, we had half as many, and we had to be very careful who we would give the books to.